what I really took away from that, how women artists collaborated together and we found a lot of, common things that we struggle with as artists, mothers, women, careers, and it really like was the glue of the show. And I think that's where the success of the show, was found, that, we started quite early on, communicating, and we've opened up a conversation. What do women struggle with? And, what do artist women struggle with? And all those things, we all have the same sort of insecurities, but often we feel not maybe ashamed, but perhaps ashamed to talk about it, because, who likes to admit, what you are afraid of. Pleased to meet you, Petra. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes, lovely to meet you too, Valeria. Is it Valeria?
It's Valeria.
Valeria.
Yes.
Oh.
So where are you joining me from, Petra?
From Vienna in Austria.
From Vienna. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm actually from Bratislava. I was born there.
So wow.
Very close to home.
Yes. And what took you to South Africa?
It was just after the revolution, the soft revolution, that my parents, my dad specifically, was a violinist. He's retired now. And there was opportunity to travel abroad. So they took the opportunity and they placed us here in South Africa in 1990 in Pretoria at the State Theatre. And that's where we stayed, or I kind of stayed on. Everybody's scattered all over the world again. I came and went, but made South Africa my permanent home.
That's so wonderful. I mean, I read you were from Pretoria, but I never knew you used to be close to where I am.
So, okay. Yeah.
So Vienna. You know Vienna well.
I know the galleries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But Valeria, you talked about knowing Vienna and knowing the galleries. So as a child, were you already interested in art?
Yes. Because of my father, and my mom was also in quite a cultural background with choirs and journalism. So it was always a big part of my life. And I don't know, I've always just had the more natural creative approach to life since, early days. I remember going to spend times with my grandmother in her garden and just, putting things together, making little gardens with cut flowers and drawing a lot, ordering the little pastels. So, it's always been a natural calling to me.
And your parent, with the music in the house, you were never drawn to play an instrument?
I did play the piano, but it was all very complicated after we emigrated because, starting up a new life, and we arrived here, none of us spoke a word of English. Mm-hmm. So, those sort of activities took a bit of a back burner. And sadly, I never got into playing the piano again, but I just replaced it with more visual art.
Yes, but still, it was just, I just thought usually when parents play an instrument, you always assume the children will play the instrument.
Yeah, I think it was probably my dad's dream, but it didn't work out that way. My brother also played the clarinet, but he hated it. He would always bite, those little plates, so he couldn't practice. But my which is my half brother, so he's not from the same father. He was born here in South Africa, and he landed up going to the Drakensberg Boys Choir.
Really?
So he went down the more musical route.
The musical route.
Yeah.
But so you said, so you explored art when you came to South Africa. So did you in school do art as a subject?
I did do art as a subject. I did it as two subjects actually. One of just like a general art subject, and then I also did a pottery subject, which
Okay.
I still dabble with a little bit every now and then. I do have some ceramic pieces, but that is not my main medium. And I
Okay.
didn't study arts after school. I studied Montessori and early childhood development, but it wasn't a calling for me. And I kind of had a family, had children, veered off from that, and then really got deeply into, pursuing an art career.
So, but that's interesting because if you say you didn't study art, but yet something led you to start painting, or something led you to
It was
what was
always
that
there.
inspiration? Okay.
It
Mm.
just it was throughout my whole life. I was always drawing or painting or making beads or mosaics. It was part of my everyday practice, I would say, since being a child. I was always making something. My hands always had to be kept busy. And I think, when my kids were small and I'd sit at home and be bored, like there's not that much stimulation from small children. You're very busy, but you need an outlet. You have to let your head go a little bit away from just toddlers and babies. And yeah, and then I just started like making beads, and I did a lot of mosaics, and then I started painting. And then I just was experimenting with a lot of different mediums, and I came across encaustic, and I made a artwork. And there was at Pretoria, I don't know if you know the Pretoria Art Association. They have like a yearly members exhibition, which is open to all the members, and so I took my painting there for the exhibition, and it sold, and they invited me to
Wow.
have a exhibition after that, and it all kind of just snowballed from there. I met incredible people that have been really supportive along the way, and I feel truly blessed as an artist in my career, because there's not a lot of artists, that can live an active career as an artist. So, a lot of people or artists have it as a side hustle. They still have to, keep a different career going. So, yeah, I've been very, very blessed with the people that come into my life through the art world.
And initially, when you first presented your artwork, um, did you have the confidence? Did you think, okay, I'm putting it out there, and
No,
oh,
I
really?
think you have this, I still have this, because at my gallery, they describe me as the ADHD artist, because they never know what I'm going to bring. I'm the
Oh, okay.
multidisciplinary artist. I don't always stick to one thing. And it's always a little bit terrifying, because, you put so much of yourself into an artwork, and you don't know how it's going to be received. And you're really bearing yourself naked for the world. But I've never had any negative experiences or anything like that. But it's still always daunting to, put yourself out there.
So
But
on
yeah,
Insta,
that first one was tough.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
But I saw on Instagram your series, the space between then and now.
Yes, that was actually, it was the first show I curated this year at Art in Africa. It was for Women's Day. And it was a group of female artists. And it was such a wonderful show, and we had such a positive feedback and a huge turnout. And what I really took away from that, how women artists collaborated together, and we found a lot of common things that we struggle with as artists, mothers, women, careers, and it really like was the glue of the show. And I think that's where the success of the show was found. That we started quite early on, communicating, and we've opened up a conversation. What do women struggle with? And what do artist women struggle with, and all those things. We all have the same sort of insecurities, but often we feel not maybe ashamed, but yeah, perhaps ashamed to talk about it, because who likes to admit what you are afraid of.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it was really a very inspirational show, and it was successful too. We've sold a lot of art, and I started working again with the new medium, with the space between then and now. I changed up my medium a little bit. I've got some upcoming shows which I'll be doing a bit more works like that again. They mainly acrylic, but with a bit of impasto and some sculptural elements. So I've been enjoying exploring that at the moment.
So, how do you get your inspiration? Can you see the painting before the time, or is the painting evolving as you're working on it?
It varies. Often I have an idea which like I would like to achieve, and then the end result is often very different. And
Really?
sometimes the process can be very frustrating. Like at the moment, I have the worst block, I think, of my life. I'm trying to put
Really?
together some works, and I just put in the hours, and I just keep repainting it, because it's take a look and no, can't paint
Mhm.
over it and start again. Um, but I would say most of my inspiration would be from nature. I live in Hermanus now and spend a lot of time outdoors. I take all the opportunity I can, and yeah, that's where a lot of the inspiration comes from.
And you say now where you have this block, but are you overcritical? Are you sometimes
Very much
overcritical?
so, very much so. I can be very hard on myself, and I have a daughter that is a very good artist as well. She's doing Cambridge art, and she's so hard on herself, and it's so easy for me to see it in her. And I'm always, this is so good. Don't be so hard on yourself. But really, I do the same, and it's very hard not to be. Like I'm a perfectionist by nature, so sometimes I think maybe I take it a bit too far. Yeah.
So if you look at the art scene in South Africa, are you positive about the opportunities that you have there?
Oh, very much so. Really, very, very much so. More now than ever. There's so much talent in this country. That's actually, I'm signed to the Gallery Art at Africa, and it's our motto there at the gallery. And Dirk does a lot of outreach projects. And we have a 16-year-old boy at the gallery that Dirk's been working with, and next year he's going to have a soft solo release, and he sold some paintings, and that then gets invested back into materials for him. And it's just so inspirational to see, like, all the different ideas people have. And in a place like South Africa, it would be crazy to think that there isn't that much talent. There's so much to be inspired from. So I think there's definitely a bright future for the arts here.
Really? And do you think in schools more should be done, perhaps, for children to be able to pursue
I
art?
do think so. I do think so. And I also believe that, the whole curriculum should be reevaluated, and also the marking system. It's a crazy thing. How do you judge somebody's art? And I see it with my daughter as well. She'll put in so much of her soul into something, and then she won't necessarily get the grades that she thinks she deserves. But you can't take those criticisms to heart. It's really like they're marking according to some sort of made up table,
Mhm.
that they how else can they grade you? But I don't know what the correct approach would be, when it comes to children and art, but I think it should be pushed more. I think so much so much more in other subjects can be achieved if children had a more of a creative outlet on a daily basis. They're so
Absolutely. Mm.
swamped with internet and Instagram and TikTok and and shorts. So we were actually talking about that the other day. They cannot concentrate for anything anymore. They don't watch a movie because it's too long to sit through. Everything has to happen in these short little intervals, and with creativity, it's you have to let go and relax and open up your mind, and then other possibilities happen, which I believe will also be beneficial to all other subjects,
Exactly.
if creativity
Mm.
is allowed.
I also have spoken to a few neuroscientists, and you come also to the conclusion that the brain, um, that these skills that you acquire from pursuing an art form, any art form, if it's dance or music or painting or um, any form of art, that these skills are then transferable to all these other subjects, and to your sciences and your maths and even life skills, that you acquire from pursuing an art. So um, it's also I also agree. I think art should be, all forms of art should be central in
Yes,
the education
yes.
system.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people think art, oh, I can't draw even a stick man. And but it doesn't have to be a visual art. It can be music or dance or
Exactly.
drama, but there should be an outlet that is enforced for all children and young people. It should be normalized. The art kids don't always have to be the weirdos. you
Exactly.
know
And yeah, but I was thinking when we spoke before, when I was in school, and this was in the 70s, 80s, you could only take art as a subject if you can already draw. So if you drew good pictures, you could go in the art class. And you think to yourself, it's not, art is not just about drawing. There's so many other aspects of art, and how many children were excluded in this art class just because they couldn't draw.
Yeah, you were told you can't draw, you are no good. I mean, I'm not great at drawing. I'm not a I think in hyperrealism, if you practice enough, you can acquire skills, but it's not something that is resonating with me, as maybe with some other artists. So I actually didn't get the best marks in school, and it was a bit demotivating where like the girls could draw. Like I went to girls' high, and there was an exceptional art department, and there was some girls with massive talent, but it was apples and
Yeah.
pears. You couldn't
Mm.
compare, but again, the marking system didn't allow for that more of a freedom of expression. Yeah. A couple of years ago, when I was still living in Pretoria, we I mean, there's not that much outdoor activity, so we were always looking for something to do, and we started the Stitch and Bitch Club, which originally started that we were going to knit little or crochet little squares for the Mandela blankets. And so we'd get together once a month at somebody's house, and we'd take turns hosting and crochet or knit, and which then grew into quite a big group of ladies of all ages. We had some teenagers and some ladies in their 60s, but it kind of evolved into a more of a craft club where some days we were planning to do lino printing, other days we were making jewelry from Fimo clay, and really we explored so many different crafts and arts. And in the beginning there was so much resilience, especially from the older generation. Oh, I can't do this, don't have a creative bone in my body. But it was incredible to see how many people found something that they really enjoyed, that resonated with them, but they before were just shut down to it because of some block telling them that they are not creative, they can't do that. And I think this culture of not, pushing creative arts in school is, creating these blocks for children
Exactly.
and young adults that, then stick with you throughout your life.
Mm. And yeah,
So
I
there's,
was
yeah, it should be changed.
I was talking to an art therapist yesterday, and we talked about this uh, idea of that we have to also move away from this the idea of when I make something, I have to show it. You know, that art is also about the experience, and that it can be only your experience. It doesn't have to be in an art exhibition. And that process of you exploring what you can do, or just enjoying that creative process, is
Yeah.
also
And
important.
you need that safe space, it's important to have a safe space to create in that. It can be just for you. It doesn't have to be for everybody to see. I have so much work that just sits, with its back. That's just there. It's something that needed to come out. It came out, and it's not for everybody to see.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But I spoke to a singer-songwriter once, and Jack de Priester, you must know him from South Africa.
Yes, I know the name.
Yeah. He said that, he sometimes looks back at his work, his first writing, his songs and so on, and it's almost like a journal for him to show where he was in his
Yes.
life at the time. So do you look at your art
Yes,
also in that
definitely.
way?
I definitely do look at my art and things I've made over the years. It's like a song that can take you back to a very nostalgic moment. So I think it's the same with art. And I think also that's also how collectors buy art, is like something is there that can take you to a different time. Maybe it's just something that you remember and that you've experienced, or something that you don't really know if you have experienced it, but it's in there, it's in your
Yeah.
subconscious, and you can connect to it. And yes, so your art, whichever form you have it in, is like a creative journal, of treasures of who you were or are becoming.
And do you go back to your art sometimes and wish you did it differently, or can you uh, leave it at the time at what you did?
No, I once I finish something, then it's finished for
It's,
me. Then
mm,
I move on from that. I don't dwell on artworks but I do believe in completing artworks. Even sometimes if I have to put it down for 2 or 3 years, I don't like them to forever be incomplete.
okay.
Sometimes they need a bit of time, to rest, and whatever needs to come out will come out. But it's always it's good to have that closure once you begin something, that you can close it off. And whether you are satisfied with the final product or not, it's done, and you can learn from it. And yeah, whether it's good or bad, it's learning experiences are always good.
And can you separate yourself in the sense, can you let go of a painting when somebody buys it, or is it like, do you have to
Yeah. So I only have
okay.
one painting which I haven't sold because I don't know why. I'm attached to it. It's the only painting of mine that I have hanging in my studio as an artwork. The other ones are just around because they on their way out. But yes, I'm always very happy to let them go. And the gallery that I'm working at or with, we have predominantly international clients, so my art is all over the world. And I always think about like where this little, it's like essentially a piece of my soul, that travels to far places. And I like to believe that it brings joy. My art, I've never been too in like a very serious subject matter. I always try to have uplifting energy to my art. And I like to believe that it does bring joy and positivity to wherever it is in the world. Yeah.
And do you know who buys your art?
Sometimes you know, and sometimes clients send photos of, oh, we love it, it's here, and they
Oh,
send you a
really?
photo of how it's hanging in their space, and sometimes not.
Mm.
I do wonder though, sometimes I'll go back through my works and I'll even forget that I've sold this work, and then I think, oh, I wonder where in the world it is. I always said I'm going to get a map and pin on there where all my art
Yes.
is, but I've lost track. So I can
But
just
maybe that's
imagine.
also a good thing that you release it, and
Yeah.
it's going to the right place or to the right person.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
And it's so strange with art. We always like try to think what is going to sell and who's going to like this. There is no algorithm to this. Really, like you never know who's going to walk into the gallery and what is going to resonate with who. I have artworks that will unpackage and it sells before it even hangs. And then there's art that sells, 3, 4 years later. So it's I believe that it's the art and the buyer need to find themselves. The energy needs to be aligned.
And do
you
you?
know
So
the,
you don't go for what sells. So you paint what inspires rather than uh, trying to be commercial and trying to do
Definitely,
something that
definitely.
sells.
And, the gallery I'm working with, we are such a wonderful group of people and artists, and such a supportive environment. Dirk is just, you know, whatever crazy thing I come up with, he's always so supportive and engaging and wants to help. And I mean, obviously, we're still in the business of selling art. So, you're not going to be pushing something but I believe that if you are creating something with your heart, and it can't be sloppy. It's a product. It's still something somebody is going to purchase, so it must have good frame or proper materials, finished properly. But yeah, if you are creating with that intention, then I don't think sticking to a trend is something I could do.
And what would you say? What is the big dream for you, or what are your wishes?
Um, just to continue. I'm in a place in my life where I'm very happy and content, and I love what I do, and the gallery is growing, and I'm part of the team in the gallery, and I'm constantly meeting new people, and I'd just like to grow within the art, within myself, and continue doing what I'm doing, and hopefully, inspire people to be open to letting their creative side out. And um, you know, it's accessible to everyone, but you have to be open to it, and hard work as well.
Exactly. And also, I think what is also important is that we realize by teaching or by giving children the opportunity to explore art, we are also creating audiences for art.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes, yeah. I mean, my daughter, she goes to a little Cambridge school here in Hermanus, and they go on these art trips once a term to Cape Town and take galleries, and it's really it's incredible to see and listen to the young people. They have very different views and opinions to that of mine, and um, I wish more people would give teenagers the time of the day to listen, get
Yes.
past all their little jibber jabber. But if you really pay attention, they have like interesting thoughts. And,
Mm.
it's also very inspirational for me. I love working with young people. I really, I love teenagers, and hanging out with them, and Obviously, sometimes they're a bit obnoxious and, the age is, but, if you get past that and really listen and pay attention to them, they are interesting. They are in such a formative stage. You can learn so much
Exactly.
from them.
Yeah. And they so
Yeah.
much, they've got so much hope for, they're so positive about what's possible. And sometimes we already with experience think, oh, it's not going to work, but they are just going for it. And I think
It's
that's
so
also important to
important to
see. Yeah.
encourage them and,
Mhm.
push them to try to reach their dreams,
Yeah.
because we can become so consumed with, like, you have to go to school, you have to get a career, you have to do this and that, and when do you live, like,
Exactly.
I'm getting
Mm.
older, and I can see, things a little bit more difficult every morning, getting out of bed, and all those things that we plan for our retirement. Who knows if you're going to get there? I'm
Exactly.
not saying be a hippie and do nothing and live a crazy, or
Yeah.
be a hippie. I've always actually told my children, be whatever you want. If you want to be a hobo under a bridge, then do that, but be a happy hobo.
Yeah.
Make sure that your heart is content. Do something
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
fills your soul. Follow
Mm.
your dreams. And just because somebody is doing something, it doesn't mean that you have to be doing that.
Exactly.
Be a
Mm.
good person, work hard, but also enjoy your time. Like, you only have one life, and be good to people,
Exactly.
be inspirational, listen, to what people say, and don't be so narrow-minded and hard-headed. Be
Mm.
open. It's important for people to be more open. I think in
Exactly.
this society we become so in our little bubble, and in the screens, and I go to the beach and I see people with a phone, my head wants to explode.
Yeah. No, but that's true.
Yeah.
And it's also that idea of you have to do this at this time and this at this time, and you have to have a car and you have to have a house and you have to have that. And then you think, okay, and then at the end of your life, what then? So I also agree with you. I think we should be more open to just experience certain things for what it is and then move on.
Yeah, but there's a lot of judgment around. I mean, I homeschooled my children. My son went to grade one, and it was like a coincidence. They were busy fixing the M1 highway, and the traffic was really a problem. We were spending a lot of time on the roads, and then I started toying with the idea, maybe I'll homeschool my children. And I mean, he's now 19, so this is quite a while ago. And when we started, it was terrifying. We were too scared to, leave the house, because what if somebody asks us, why aren't you at school? Because you're always feeling so judged by everybody. And we had to overcome a lot of these barriers, just so you can live confidently within yourself. And I think it's difficult when you are in a society that has certain expectations. And so it is my hope for young people and my children to be authentic, like, be true to yourself. Don't let somebody else's ideas influence your dreams.
Exactly. Yeah.
People always say you live through this rose tinted sunglasses, and you see this world as, I don't know. I think as an artist by nature, you have to have a lot of faith, you
Yes.
know. So, and that's kind of like what's been my guide in my life, is to have faith, obviously, within reason. And when I moved to Hermanus, my daughter struggled here to make friends because she was already a teenager, and it's not like, oh, I'm going to quickly run off and organize a little play date. It doesn't work like that when you have teenagers. And so we actually went to look at the school so she could participate in sports, and we walked in there and she was like, this is where I want to go. My heart. I was like, ooh,
Really?
yeah, but like, I
Yeah.
could see what she wanted, and it took her some time, to adjust. And I think for her it was like she found there was a lot of time wasting. Like now we're doing this subject, and then we're doing it this way. And she was so used to learning on her own. So it took her some time to adjust. And actually, we've now found a medium where she only goes 3 times a week and self studies on the other days. And she's like flown through her curriculum and, yeah, made a lot of friends. But she still, sometimes struggles with, if she compares herself to her friends, because they are all planning, they're going to Stellenbosch or UCT, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. And, but you don't need to know. You don't need to know.
Exactly.
You can take some time. And my son was the same. He finished last year, and he had this plan to go to Australia to go stay with his godfather and work there, and we couldn't in the end organize his visas. So last minute, it was like a couple of weeks. We decided he'll go to Prague. He'll go to Prague and go stay with my brother for a while. And he got there and immediately found a job and made a community. And actually, on Thursday, he's moving to Sweden for a ski season.
Wow.
And he's so open and ready to connect and meet people, even though he's very homesick. But he's like, I don't know what I want. What am I going to do? So I'm just going to go with this. This is what is happening to me now. And who knows what will happen, who you'll meet. And I say to him, even if those experiences aren't the best experiences of your life, but you would have learned so much. It's
Absolutely. Yeah.
experiences that money can't buy. If you haven't been there, you don't know.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think
Yeah.
authenticity is important.
Absolutely. Yeah. I also homeschooled my children but in England.
Okay.
And at the time it
Oh
was so
wow.
frowned upon, people really
Yes.
judged us, and
Yes.
it was really difficult. And I know that pressure, you always had you I almost always wanted them to do too much, because you never wanted them to feel that they are behind the other children.
Yeah.
That's also later in life I could see how they have that work ethic, of knowing or understanding, if I don't do the work, it's my,
Yeah.
I'm going to carry the consequences. And
Exactly.
I think, yes, I always realized I cannot, because people always ask me certain things, but how are you going to do this, and how they're going to do science experiments, and, who's going to teach them art, and who's going to, and then you think, okay, you can't give everything that a school gives, because you are just one person who's teaching them, but you can organize other things, or you can just say, what are the best skill I can give them. And I always believed the best skill I could give them is to understand consequence, to understand if I don't do the work, there will be a consequence. Either, if I
Yeah.
do the work, the consequence will be, it will be good, and I will benefit from it. And if I don't do the work, the consequence will be that I will in some way have to
Be lacking. Yeah.
yeah. So I think, I think schools can teach you some things, but I think homeschooling also has a lot of benefits that you
It does
can,
have a lot of
yeah.
benefits, I mean, like my question always was, but how will you socialize your children? I was
Yes,
like,
I also
socialize my children. I don't
yeah,
know, like we all socialize every day.
exactly,
Um,
exactly.
my kids have such a broad range of friends from
Yeah,
all interests, all ages, and they can approach young children, they can approach adults. They are very
exactly.
resourceful and independent, and that was also which was really, really beneficial to me building my career, is that I could do it alongside my children, and we really like in those years of, okay, before my son got to the exams, then it was a little bit more serious. We couldn't travel as much, but we traveled a lot, and we did so many things and went to so many outings and met so many people and had so many experiences. We were even on carte blanche, my kids were on TV
Really?
twice, and they were, all these things that the homeschooling just happened. I didn't plan for it, but because we were doing so many things, and maybe, like you say, overcompensating, because you
Yeah.
do feel a sense of fear and responsibility. But we really, really did a lot, and it was always fun,
Yes.
without that pressure of testing and judging. And also, my kids don't really have that much, experience with peer pressure, and
Yeah.
and I think that also what I don't like about school is that the kids are all grouped in the same ages. We all have different areas which we evolve in differently and mature in differently and have different interests, and it can be very limiting to put children into one sack and then find
Exactly.
your way around in that little environment. And this is all you can work with, because you are now 10 years old, and this is what you're allowed to do when you're 10 years old. Yeah, it's a bit limiting.
No, I do agree, and I always thought the socializing aspect was always the last problem, if you
Yeah,
can say, because
yeah.
my children were always very sociable, and still
It was
today,
almost
they
like too
very much,
much.
yeah,
It was like, because we were always going from this class to that class and that group and that activity, it was like we are over socializing.
yeah. No, I
Yeah.
agree. But Valeria, this was so great to talk to you. I'm so great.
Yeah.
We've got a few things in common, it seems. But
Yes.
yeah, but so lovely, and you're in such a beautiful part of South Africa,
Oh, really, I'm so
Hermanus.
blessed. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
and
just came out of whale season, so our
oh,
hearts are full of
beautiful.
whales.
Really, oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
And I will definitely come and visit the gallery when I come to South Africa, when I come to that
Definitely.
part of South Africa. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Do you come to South Africa regularly?
Quite often, but I usually stay near Johannesburg. But I have to come
Okay.
down because I've spoken to quite a few artists down in the Cape, and I would love to come and meet them in person as well.
Yes, that would
So,
be wonderful. We should organize like a whole art lunch or something
yes,
with all
that
the
would be great.
artists.
That would be so great.
Yeah, wonderful. It
Okay,
was
but
really wonderful to meet you.
it was so great to talk to you too. Your art is so beautiful for me, and I only see it on Instagram, but I'm
Hmm.
always so grateful for Instagram for what we can
Yes.
see and what we can experience on it. So thank you for posting that as well.
Oh, and thank you for inviting me.
It's a great pleasure.